Today, we're talking about something most men have not yet fully grasped. This is the power of multi generational vision. Now, it's not what you think, so give me a moment. The average man thinks about Friday night. The king's men think about Friday night 3 generations from now. Every decision that you make creates ripple effects that will impact your great grandchildren. This isn't optional leadership, it is your sacred responsibility as a man who carries the authority of Christ. When you are deciding where to live, what career to pursue, how to educate your children, you are thinking about your comfort, or are you thinking about your legacy's strength? And I'm not talking about vanity or ego. I'm talking about true kingdom impact that outlasts your heartbeat, outlasts your lifetime. Even in the church, we often look at discipleship through a single generation rather than decisions around how we function, how we reach people, and what kind of standards we're setting for the people in our community that are keeping us focused on the short term. And that is why so much of it is dissolving away with this next generation. We are trying to solve the immediate stuff, and we're not thinking about how this impacts multiple generations. We're not willing to decrease fruit in the short term to have exponential fruit in the long term. We want what we want, and we want it now. This is why 1.2 million kids left the church in the US last year. So that mortgage that stretches you thin for the house with the perfect kitchen that you've always wanted, or that might be robbing your grandchildren of resources that could have been multiplied through strategic investments. The travel sports teams that are consuming every weekend, they might be stealing the rhythms and the traditions that would have anchored your family for generations. This isn't about specific choices, too. It's about the lens in which you're using to make choices. Most men are using a microscope when they need to be using a telescope. And here's where most men fail. First, they have no clarity on their multi generational vision. They're drifting through life making decisions based on cultural defaults and immediate gratification. You cannot build legacy while on autopilot. Second, they blindly follow someone else's blueprint. The church culture tells you what a good Christian family looks like. The secular world has its own agenda for us, which is just an abomination. But both want to program you into their systems. Reject this. Reject it all out. And let me be clear, I'm not telling you to reject godly leadership or submission to local elders. These men are doing their very best to impart wisdom and vision to you. The problem isn't always their leadership. It is often our failure as men to seek God directly and catch a specific vision that is bigger than ourselves. Church leaders are shepherding hundreds of men most of the time, and they can't possibly discern the specific, detailed calling on your family. That responsibility falls on you. Your elders provide guardrails and biblical principles, but like the distinct vision for your legacy, that is between you and the king. This isn't rebellion against all of that stuff. It's stewardship. When men advocate their responsibility to seek vision directly from God, church leaders have no choice but to fill that void with general direction. So the failure is ours, not theirs. Your calling as a father in Seattle running a tech company looks vastly different than a rural Texan who's working construction. The king has positioned you strategically. He has designed each of you for his purposes uniquely. And so, what does this mean in practice? It means you have to get ruthlessly clear on the vision that God has for your bloodline. You pray, you fast, you seek counsel, you write it down, you filter every decision then through that vision. And this isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Okay? So give yourself some grace, but know that every choice either moves your legacy toward that vision or away from it. And the man who builds for generations wields an influence that outlasts his name. And you should be famous in your family line for the things that you've done to set up the future generations. So, what are you building, Dad? Are you building a monument for your comfort or a dynasty for your king?